Hey everyone's welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into building emotional resilience. We're going to be taking a look at a podcast episode called Building Emotional Resilience: How to Bounce Back from Challenges. It's from the Manifest with Piyush podcast.
And he's hosted by Piyush?
Right, so Piyush. And he had some really interesting, actionable advice on how to actually cultivate emotional resilience. And that's what we're going to be exploring today, right?
That's right. He offers some really insightful steps. Like, he doesn't just tell you what it is, he actually tells you how to build it.
Okay, so let's get into it. First of all, how does Piyush define emotional resilience?
Well, he says it's the ability to adapt to, like stress, adversity, challenges, all those fun things, but in a healthy way, right? So it's about being able to bounce back from those difficulties, those challenges, not just surviving them, but actually growing from them.
Yeah. So it's not about just avoiding tough times, but more about how you handle them and what you learn from them, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, we're not trying to like prevent life storms from happening. We're trying to learn how to like navigate them.
I love that. So Piyush also outlines these traits that emotionally resilient people tend to have. And I gotta say, looking at this list, some of these really stood out to me.
Okay. Which one's got you thinking?
Well, the first one was optimism. And this is something that Piyush really stresses, focusing on what you can control. And I thought that was super interesting because it's so easy to get caught up in all those things that are completely outside our control, right?
Absolutely. And it's almost like a mental shift, isn't it? Like, instead of dwelling on the problems or the things we can't change, we redirect that energy and focus on finding solutions, finding what we can do.
Right, like being proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly. Yeah, and that shift can be so empowering because instead of feeling stuck or helpless, we start to see the possibilities and actually, feel like we have some agency.
Yeah, so it's not just about like positive thinking, it's also about taking action. And that actually leads perfectly into the next trait that Pierce talks about, which is adaptability.
Ah, yes. Mental agility. He describes it as like a mental workout, but for your flexibility.
Yeah, it's like how quickly can you adjust when things don't go according to plan? Which honestly happens all the time, right?
All the time. I mean, think about it. Technology is constantly evolving. The job market is constantly changing, and we have all these global events that we can't predict. So being able to kind of pivot, to be adaptable, is becoming less of a like nice to have skill and more of an essential life skill.
Right. And you know what? That adaptability actually, I think, ties in with another trait that he mentions, which is problem solving. Emotionally resilient people, they don't just sit there and dwell on their
They don't
problems.
get stuck, right?
They're like, okay, how can I fix this? How do I move forward?
Yeah, they become solution-oriented. They start strategizing.
Yeah. And it's interesting because Piyush isn't just telling us to be positive, he's actually giving us tools.
Yeah, like he's giving us a toolkit for action. And you know what? That reminds me of something I've noticed in my own life. I used to get so overwhelmed when things would go wrong. But as I've consciously worked on my problem-solving skills, I've noticed a big difference in how I handle those curveballs.
It's like building a mental muscle for resilience.
Exactly. It's like that saying, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And Piyush is definitely teaching us how to fish.
Yeah. But even the best fishermen need a good net, right?
Aha, right? And that's where the next trait comes in, strong support systems.
Ah, yes. He is a big advocate for building a network of people you can rely on. And I love how he emphasizes that it's not weak to ask for help. Actually, it's a sign of self-awareness, right?
Totally. Like, we're not meant to go through this thing called life alone, right? We're meant to have people to lean on, to share the burden, to celebrate with, all of that.
And, sometimes even just having someone to listen can make such a huge difference. It's like sharing the weight, right? You don't have to carry it all yourself.
Absolutely. And, on that note, Piyush also talks about mentorship, like finding somebody who has maybe already walked the path you're on, someone who can offer some guidance and support. Think about a time in your life when you had a mentor, somebody you looked up to. How did their support impact your journey?
That's a great question. I think mentorship can be so powerful, especially when it comes to, building resilience. Having someone who can offer a different perspective or share their own stories of overcoming challenges, it can be incredibly inspiring. It gives you that boost when you need it.
Totally. And, it kind of validates your own struggles too, right? Like, okay, this person went through something similar and they came out the other side. Maybe I can too.
Okay, so we've talked about what emotional resilience is and kind of the traits of those who have it. But the big question is, how do we actually build it?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And the good news is, Piyush gives us a ton of actionable steps to do just that.
Let's hear him. What's the first step?
Well, first things first, he talks about self-care. No big surprise there, right?
Right, the foundation.
The foundation. You can't pour from an empty cup. So taking care of your physical and mental health is essential for building resilience.
Okay, so we're talking like eating nutritious food, getting enough sleep, moving your body, finding activities that actually recharge your batteries, not deplete them.
Exactly. And then he moves into this idea of developing a growth mindset, which we touched on earlier. Seeing challenges as opportunities to learn as opposed to roadblocks. Reframing failures as valuable feedback.
And I think that reframing is so crucial because it shifts our focus, right? It's not, I messed up, it's, what can I learn from this?
Right. And it moves us from feeling defeated to feeling empowered. It's like, okay, this didn't go as planned, but what can I take away from this experience to improve next time?
I used to be terrified of failure, but the more I embrace that growth mindset, the less intimidating those setbacks actually become. It's almost like I'm less attached to a specific outcome and more focused on the process of learning and growing as a person.
That's such a good observation, actually. Yeah, it's about letting go of that need to be perfect and just embracing the journey with all of its imperfections.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of journeys, this reminds me of a time when I was learning to.
Welcome back to our deep dive into emotional resilience.
Yeah, we're picking up where we left off, kind of exploring all these actionable steps that Piyush outlines for actually building this resilience.
Right, and one of the most interesting things he talks about is the connection between resilience and manifestation.
Oh, yeah, that's where it gets really cool. We often think about manifestation as like positive thinking and visualizing your goals. But Piyush really emphasizes that resilience is what helps you actually bring those desires to life.
It's like the bridge between intention and reality.
Exactly, because think about it. Manifesting your dreams rarely happens overnight, right? There are going to be obstacles, challenges, those moments where you might feel like giving up.
Yeah, and resilience is that thing that keeps you going, even when things get tough. It's that fuel that helps you navigate those bumps in the road.
Right. So like Piyush gives a good example. Let's say you're manifesting a new job and you get a rejection. It'd be easy to feel super discouraged, right?
Oh, totally. But somebody with strong emotional resilience, they wouldn't let that rejection derail them. They wouldn't just give up.
Right. They'd probably see it as an opportunity to learn and refine their approach, and keep moving forward.
Yeah. Maybe they'd ask themselves, okay, what can I learn from this interview? How can I improve my resume? How can I improve my interviewing skills?
Yeah. Total shift in perspective, right? Instead of dwelling on the disappointment, they're using it as fuel to kind of like grow and improve.
And that proactive approach, that willingness to actually learn from setbacks, that is like a hallmark of resilience.
It's like turning those quote unquote failures into valuable feedback, which ultimately helps you get closer to your goal.
Now, it's important to say building resilience doesn't mean you're not going to experience negative emotions.
Right, of course. Like you're not just going to be happy all the time.
It's not about suppressing those feelings or pretending everything is perfect.
It's more about how you process those emotions and how you manage them in a healthy way.
Yeah, it's not about avoiding those lows. It's about having the strength to like ride the wave and knowing you'll emerge even stronger on the other side. And that strength is built through practice, through consistently choosing to respond to challenges in a way that empowers you.
Yeah. Piyush has a good analogy. He says resilience is like a muscle.
I love that. And like any muscle, it needs to be, exercised regularly in order to grow stronger.
Right. It's not something you're just like born with. It's something you cultivate over time.
Through your experiences, your choices, your willingness to kind of lean into those difficult moments and actually learn from them.
And just like physical exercise can be challenging, sometimes even painful. Building that emotional resilience takes effort,
It takes dedication.
but the rewards are so worth it.
Oh, absolutely. When you cultivate resilience, you're basically empowering yourself to navigate life's ups and downs with more grace and wisdom.
Yeah, it's like you gain this sense of agency, like you're actually in control of your own life, as much as you can be.
Which is huge, especially when life throws those unexpected curveballs.
As we're talking about resilience and manifestation, I'm remembering something else that Piyush talks about, the power of belief.
Oh, tell me more.
He emphasizes that believing in yourself, believing in your ability to achieve your goals, that's fundamental to resilience.
It's about cultivating that inner knowing that you are capable and resourceful and worthy of achieving your dreams.
Exactly. And that belief acts as a powerful anchor when you're facing obstacles or setbacks.
It's the fuel that keeps you going, that voice that whispers, you got this, even when those doubts start creeping in.
This reminds me of a time when I was working on a really challenging project and I was starting to doubt myself. I remembered something my mentor told me, you are stronger than you think you are. And just that simple reminder, that belief in my capabilities really helped me push through.
It's amazing how powerful our beliefs can be.
It really is, and I think this ties beautifully with another one of Piyush's insights, the importance of celebrating your wins, no matter how small they are.
Yes, acknowledging your accomplishments, whether they're big or small, helps to reinforce that belief in yourself and your abilities.
It's like giving yourself a pat on the back and saying, hey, look what I did. I'm capable of amazing things.
And those celebrations, those moments of self-acknowledgement, they're essential for building momentum and staying motivated.
They remind you that you're making progress, even if it's not always like super visible or dramatic.
And that sense of progress is incredibly empowering. It keeps you focused on your goals and helps you to trust that you're on the right path.
Okay, so this next point from Piyush might surprise you. He talks about the importance of gratitude.
Gratitude. I'm intrigued. How did that tie into resilience?
He explains that practicing gratitude, even in the midst of challenges, can have a huge impact on our overall resilience.
It's about shifting our focus from what we're lacking to what we already have, those blessings that we often take for granted.
And that shift in perspective can be really transformative. It allows you to appreciate the good even when things are tough.
It's like a mental reset button. It helps you see the world through a more positive lens.
Yeah, and when you cultivate that sense of gratitude, you're strengthening your ability to cope with adversity.
You're reminding yourself that even in the midst of challenges, there's still so much to be thankful for.
Now, of course, practicing gratitude doesn't mean ignoring the challenges or pretending everything is perfect.
No, it's not about denying the difficulties.
It's about choosing to focus on the good alongside the bad, right?
Exactly. It's like recognizing that life is this tapestry of experiences, both joyful and challenging.
And all those threads contribute to the richness of the whole.
And when you can embrace that perspective, you're cultivating a more resilient and adaptable approach to life.
You're acknowledging that setbacks are inevitable, but so are those moments of joy, gratitude, and triumph.
And it's that balance, the ability to hold both the light and the shadow, that lets you navigate life's journey with more grace and strength.
You know, this whole concept of gratitude is so powerful, and I've been trying to incorporate it more in my own life. Like, I started a gratitude journal. And even on those days when I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, I make an effort to write down 3 things I'm grateful for.
It's amazing how such a simple practice can really shift your perspective and make you feel more grounded.
Yeah, it's like those small acts of gratitude create these ripples of positivity.
They really do.
You know, this whole conversation about gratitude has got me thinking we often underestimate the power of those simple practices.
Yeah, like gratitude journaling or just taking a few minutes to meditate or be mindful.
Exactly. These practices might seem small, but they can have a huge impact on our well-being and our ability to handle challenges.
It's like those little tiny reps, building up those mental and emotional muscles.
Yeah, and those small reps eventually add up to a stronger, more resilient you.
One of the best ways I've found to actually cultivate resilience is just to pay attention to how you react to those everyday challenges.
Becoming more self-aware.
Exactly. Notice your thoughts, notice your feelings, your behaviors. What are your typical patterns? What are your triggers? And once you have that awareness, you can start making conscious choices about how you respond.
So instead of being reactive, you become proactive.
You're not just a victim of your circumstances, you're actually the architect of your own experience.
And that is where true resilience lies.
Absolutely. Taking ownership, embracing the challenges, and using those challenges as opportunities to grow and evolve.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
It's a journey. There are going to be ups, there are going to be downs, twists and turns, but the key is to keep moving forward.
One step at a time.
One step at a time, and to celebrate all those little victories along the way.
Because every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to that unshakable inner strength.
So as we're wrapping up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with this question.
Okay, what is it?
What is one small step you can take today to boost your resilience? Maybe it's starting that gratitude journal, maybe it's reaching out to a friend, or maybe it's just taking 5 minutes to breathe deeply and reconnect with yourself.
The key is to start somewhere.
Start somewhere. Make that conscious effort to nurture those resilience muscles.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey. We're all in this together, navigating life's challenges and supporting each other along the way.
That's it for part 2 of our deep dive on emotional resilience.
We'll be back soon for the final part of this episode, where we'll explore even more insights from Piyush and practical strategies for building that unshakable emotional resilience.
See you then.
Welcome back to our deep dive. We're in the final part now, focusing on those actionable steps you can take to build resilience.
You have time to put everything together.
Piyush kicks things off by really highlighting self-awareness, calls it the foundation.
Makes sense, right? Can't really change something if you don't even know it's there.
It's about understanding your emotions, those triggers, how you typically react when things get tough.
Once you see that clearly, then you can make different choices.
instead of your emotions running the show.
You're in charge, steering the ship towards your goals, your values, that sort of thing.
And that takes us right to his next point, that growth mindset we were talking about.
Powerful stuff. Challenges become opportunities, not the end of the world.
I'm not good at this turns into how can I learn?
You're rewiring your brain. Setbacks. They're growth moments, not ego blows.
Huge difference that makes. Not about perfection, it's about the willingness to grow.
I used to be so scared of making mistakes. But shifting to this mindset, I'm more willing to take risks now.
That's a great point. Piyush actually encourages us to embrace being uncomfortable.
Wait, he wants us to seek that out.
It sounds odd, I know, but his argument is that real growth, real resilience often happen outside that comfy bubble.
Like that saying, life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Exactly. Or trying new things, facing fears, those slightly scary situations.
I can definitely see that in my own life. Most rewarding experiences pushed myself beyond what felt safe.
You're stretching your capacity each time you do something challenging.
Along those lines, he also talks about focusing on what we can control.
So important, especially these days. Feels like everything's chaotic.
Weather, the economy, other people can't control that. But our thoughts, our attitudes, our responses, that our domain.
Worry less about what you can't change. Take action on what you can.
You reclaim your power that way.
Speaking of which, Piyush is big on taking care of your physical health.
Easy to forget that one when you're stressed out.
The nutritious food, sleep, moving your body, those give you the resources to cope.
Foundation for everything else, mentally and emotionally.
Like you can't just run a marathon with no training, right?
And just as important, strong social connections.
We touched on this before, that network to help you through tough times.
People who uplift you, listen, offer a hand when you need it most.
But it's not just about taking support, it's about giving it too.
That back and forth, showing up for others, that's empowering in itself.
Building that web of support, that sense of community.
And while we're on the topic of support, Piyush recommends mentors, role models too.
Someone who's been there, done that, can share their wisdom.
Your map and compass for new territory.
Before we wrap up, one final thing Piyush emphasizes. Building resilience, it's not a finish line, it's ongoing.
Lifelong journey of self-discovery, you could say.
No point where you're suddenly done being resilient.
Always learning, adapting, changing.
And gotta be patient with yourself along the way.
Some days you'll feel strong, others not so much. Keep showing up, keep practicing those habits, keep believing.
You're capable of amazing resilience. You have the strength to overcome anything, learn from everything.
And create a meaningful, fulfilling life.
That wraps up our deep dive into emotional resilience. Hope you found it helpful.
Remember, it's a journey. Every step, big or small, builds that unshakable strength within you.
Thanks for joining us.